Good evening, good evening. How you guys doing out there? This Mike back with From Pain to Purpose podcast, episode 29. I have an impressive brother on tonight. I got to know this brother for the last over 5 years. You know what I'm saying? We attend the same church, and this brother has a heck of a story and a great teacher, rapper, basketball player, just a man of many different gifts. Introduce y'all to my brother Quan. What's up, Quan? How you doing tonight, brother?
Shalom, Mike. I'm cool, man. Praise the Most High. Shalom, everybody who watching.
Thanks for coming on, Quan, and giving us a chance to hear about your journey, man. Your journey to the Most High, and where did it take you, and the pits and everything that you went through. Hold on, I'm trying to get this joint to your page. All right, sharing now. Yeah, man, and it's a joy to have you on, bro. I know we had to reschedule a couple times because some things came up on my end, but Most High had it where tonight we on, and guess what? People gonna be watching because ain't nowhere to go.
Can't go nowhere.
Can't go nowhere, so people gotta tune in, baby. So what's going on? Take us from the beginning, man. Growing up in New York, and how was life growing up, and just take us from the beginning of your journey, man.
Con. Well, first and foremost, I was born in Harlem, East Harlem, 125th Street, Second Avenue. Grew up there. I was under the care of my mother and my father. My father got sick when I was about 7 or 8. It's kind of vague. I just remember going to the hospitals to see him, every now and then. My moms and my pops, they stayed together the whole time. They worked. They cared for us. Um, so growing up in the projects out there in 125th, it was, a whole bunch of family, a whole bunch of, people in the same area as me. So, I was kind of safe out there, growing up around them. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness at the time. My father didn't go to the church. I should say to the Jehovah's Witness, to the Kingdom Hall. He didn't go to the Kingdom Hall. He did drink a lot. So when I saw him, it was if it wasn't in the house, smoking a cigarette or something, or watching Larry Bird and them play at the time, because it was the 80s. Watching them play. He was outside in front of the PJs, with the boys and them, drinking, smearing off whatever he was drinking. He even introduced me to beer. I was, like I said, I was probably like 8 when he died, so I had to be like 5 or 6. He handed me a beer. I hated the taste, so I didn't really, I didn't enjoy it. I did like the smell of cigarettes, like when you first burn a cigarette like that, it smells. I don't know for everybody, but to me, it had smelled good when I was a child. So that's how I grew up mainly until when my pops died in like '89. My mother, it might have been '88. Like I said, I was so young, I don't remember the dates. But I remember, once he passed, I remember going to the hospitals and seeing him and going to the funeral. I remember seeing him in the funeral, and it kind of messed me up a little bit because, I was so young. I didn't know that people died, and nobody was really explaining to me that I'm not going to see him again.
Wow.
So when he passed away, even though I didn't see him a lot, he still played an intricate role in my life. He still taught me certain things, more so to be like, to be the type of man that wouldn't back down, to fight for, physically fight, how to win fights. He's like, there was a time I got into a fight, I lost. I came upstairs crying. He's like, yo, listen, you ain't going to be crying. You're going to go downstairs and beat this kid up, or I'm going to give you a spanking. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to spank it. So I went back downstairs and I beat the kid up, and after that, he walked me through the hood and he was telling me, this is what you do. You pick up whatever, you got to do what you got to do to win. Don't come back and lose. We don't lose fights. So it was stuff like that. It wasn't really like building, the type of foundation where you would be able to use it to become a better person. So, not to talk down on him, but he was giving me the information he had. He gave me whatever he had, and some of that stuff was cool, And, so like I said, back to when he passed, my mom's began to raise us by herself. Throughout the whole time, she never remarried. Even though there was one dude that liked her, she never entertained it. She never remarried again. She was focused on the family. So, in like 90, I believe it was 89, 90, we moved to East Flatbush. We moved to Brooklyn. And that's where I spent the rest of my time. But, she remained a Jehovah's Witness. She stopped going to the Kingdom Hall because she, we didn't have a car. And there was a Kingdom Hall that was probably like maybe like 5 or 10 minutes from us. And when my aunt got a car who lived below, she bought a 3-family house. So my sister lived above us. Me and my mother and my sisters, we lived in the middle floor. Or my sister, my middle sister, my youngest sister, who's in Israel now. But and then my aunt lived below us. So when my aunt got a car, we began to go to the Kingdom Hall that was like 5 or 10 minutes from us, and to be honest, I really liked learning about, Christ. I'm just gonna say Jesus at the time. At the time, it was Jesus. So, I was learning about Jesus. I'm learning about the kingdom. She's taking me with them to, to do the what's known as the door to door. So we go door to door. We were doing that even when I was younger, So I enjoyed going door to door. I like being outside, knocking on people's doors, coming into their house, meeting new people, speaking about the gospel. Though I didn't really get to talk about it, I just sat down and listened. So when I got older, they had this thing where they do like a talk and they bring you up on the stage. So they had me do like small little things like that as a child. Like if there was a child in the house, I would play that child that's, asking questions or, being rambunctious to try to distract them, just stuff like that. So I enjoyed all of that stuff. So that was the main part of my life for a while. Just going to the Kingdom Hall, playing video games, being a regular child, man, going to school, stuff like that. It began to get harder for my mother when I went to 3rd grade. I think I went to 3rd grade. The school was probably like 3 blocks from where I live. So I was able to walk to school by myself. I didn't have to take a bus. I didn't have to do none of that. So I walked to school. Everybody knew us because we just moved. I made a bunch of friends early, just because we played tag and all that kind of stuff on the block. So there's a lot of kids on the block. And we all kind of went to the same school. I got into a fight with a guy, and I got into multiple fights. When my father died, I got into a bunch of fights because I was angry. And I didn't know how to process that information as a child, and back then, you remember there was your father jokes, your mother jokes, everybody was pulling those out. So, when somebody would make a father joke, I automatically got upset. And, we were fighting, all that kind of stuff. So I got into a lot of fights because of your father jokes. Not so much your mother jokes, because my mother was alive and I know they didn't know my mother. So I processed that information in that manner. Like, you don't even know my mom. So for me, it was just like, all right, we could do your mama, but we can't do your father jokes. We're not going to do that. Right. So, like around 3rd grade, there was a bully. And he had pushed me or something. He was talking about my father, I believe. And he was just talking crazy at the time. And I was trying to, maintain my composure because I had gotten into fights already. So they knew that I was that type of person to get into fights. But he was just pushing me and pushing me. And I remember having my hands, he pushed me and I had my hands on the table in the lunchroom. He pushed me and it made me lean on to the top of the table and I put my both hands on the table. And he said something and I turned around and I punched him and I heard a snap. So when I looked, I realized I stabbed him in the nose with a pencil. So the pencil was what snapped, it broke and it got stuck in his nose. And I automatically knew I was in super trouble for that. Right. So I ran. All the teachers looking for me. He's bleeding. They're looking all over the place for me. I don't remember this, but this is what brothers told me when I got older. They were like, yo, you ran into the principal office and you got on the principal's microphone and you started cursing and talking crazy. And,
Whoa.
you know what I mean? So, that was the situation with that, So after that, they kicked me out of that school. I think it was PS 98 or 198 or something like that. They kicked me out of that school. and then they put me in special ed.
Mm.
So I began to I had to take a school bus to school because the school that they put me in was what's known as Sheepshead Bay. Now Sheepshead Bay is like 30 minutes from my house, 40 minutes from my house. So we got to pick up all these other special ed kids that's in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods on the way. You know how the bus route goes. And then we go all the way to Sheepshead Bay. So I started going out there. Um, and I didn't have any like learning issues. I actually ran on a college level when I was like 11, 12 when they tested me. What happened was I began to develop this affinity with death
Mm.
because after my father died, my uncle died, his brother died. Then my grandmother died, who we call Donna. She died.
Mm.
Um, then I think my aunt died. Um, then my other uncle, he died. So everybody was just dying, like a year, 2 years apart. I was at a funeral so much that I became numb to death. It didn't matter to me because I could see a dead body, I could see all that kind of stuff. It really didn't matter. Um, so that's when I began, like if you ever heard me tell brothers during the Bible studies how I didn't have a conscience, it began there. It began because I understood that everybody has to die, and this is how I was processing it. Eventually, I'm going to die, and some of these people are going to die. I ain't going to know them, so why should I care how they feel? It
Wow.
doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying? Because you either going to be in my life or you're not. And if you're not here, I wasted my time caring about how you feel. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So I
Deep.
began to process the information like that. Um, so yeah, so I began to develop this affinity with death to the point where it became, all right, I don't want to live. So I began to um like go down the suicide route per se, but I didn't really want to kill myself. I was just testing the limits per se. You know what I mean?
Taking
Like I
risky
was just testing.
behavior.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
like making cuts in my arms.
Mm.
Um,
Self
you know,
harm. Yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean, like taking sharp objects, running it across my wrists.
Mm.
Like I would get in the tub, I would sink underneath the tub, see how long I could hold my breath, and
Mm.
all this kind of stuff. I was just like, doing things to test the boundaries of death to see what would happen. So even I began to hang out with certain people. So after I got to eighth grade, not eighth grade, after I got to third grade, and I'm going to special ed, um, I got into more fights because those children have developmental issues. A lot of them, not everybody, because I
Mhm.
was one of those children that didn't have it, but there were other children that didn't have it either. But it was rare, so a lot of them had behavioral issues. That was why they were there. Um, and then some, of course, some had the learning disorders and things like that. I didn't understand what autism was, so brothers did have autism. Then
Mm.
now that I look back at it, I realized brothers had that kind of stuff. So even though that was going on, I was making friends. We was going out, after school, doing the regular children stuff. But I was always getting into fights. Everybody would be like, "Yo, don't say his father." This is what they used to say. They say, "Don't say his father. If you see his face get red, y'all about to get into a fight." I'm light skinned, so when I'm trying to hold back my anger, my
Yeah.
face would
Face
tend
be
to get a
red.
little picket. You know what I'm saying? So, and my thing was bullies. So I got into special ed because of bullies. So whenever there was a bully, um, I used to stand up for everybody who was dealing with the bully. So those who I predominantly got in fights with, because like I wasn't a troublemaker. So, but if somebody was bullying somebody, I'm gonna step in. I want to see if you're gonna be a bully with me the way you're being a bully with them, right?
Mm.
So there was a time a brother was trying to bully somebody, and he tried to do it to me. He tried to take my milk. The little cartons of milk. He tried to take my
Yeah.
milk, and I remember sitting at the lunch table. His name was Randy. I said, "Yo, Randy, you want my milk?" He said, "Yeah." "You gonna give it to me or I'm gonna take it?" I said, "No, I'm gonna give it to you." And I opened up the milk and I poured it on his head. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And we got into a big fight. We fought. They separated us. We went back to the classroom. We fought again. You know what I'm saying? But he thought that I was gonna back down. So eventually, long story short, when he realized I wasn't gonna back down, me and him became friends. So and he stopped bullying people because I'm around him. So he knows I'm in a fight. You're not gonna be able to bully nobody.
Real
So I
quick.
kind of yeah.
Real quick. During all of this going on, from your father dying to you being in these schools and you going through all of this, did they ever try to give you any kind of like outside help? Did they ever like try to give you a therapist or try to sit you down and understand what was going on? Or was that like far fetched back then? They just was like, it is what it is.
Nah, they once I began to dabble in the side of suicide, they began to they sent me to a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
Um And I remember going to the therapist maybe for 3 months. My mother would take me. It was probably like 5 minutes from the house. So he would sit down. He would run through different pictures. He would run through
Yeah.
different, ink blots. He would ask me different questions. We would play games and have casual conversation, stuff like that. So he was just trying to build with me to kind of see the type of child I was. And when he realized it wasn't about me actually killing myself, it was more so about like a cry for attention, is what they was describing it as.
Mm,
They labeled me as a manic depressive.
mm.
So that was the diagnosis, the
Okay.
diagnosis that they
Okay.
gave to my mother, that I was manic
Okay.
depressive.
Okay.
Um, they never put me on medication or nothing like that. They didn't want to do that. They just, whatever the conversation was between the therapist and my mother, I just remember hearing manic depressive. And, so after that, the outside, they began to send me to a therapist that was like a nurse type therapist within the school. And I'll have
Mm-hmm.
to go and speak to them. And that's when they tested me and realized that I didn't have behavioral issues, and that, not behavioral issues, but I didn't have like a learning disorder. So they began to test me and realize, he's reading on a college level. He's in fourth, fifth grade, reading at a college level. Um, and before I forget, I did stutter crazy when I was
Mm.
younger. Like
Me
having
too.
this,
Me too. Yeah.
right, so having this type of conversation, and still today, I kind of like have that, but like having this type of conversation when I was younger would have been, we would still be talking about when I was in, you know what I mean? We would still be talking about 125th
Yeah.
Street. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
used to go to
Yeah.
McDonald's and I couldn't order a hamburger. I couldn't say hamburger. I couldn't say H words. Those things
Mm.
scared me. So I would just call it a burger. You know what I'm saying? And my
Mm-hmm.
sisters and them would be like, yo, slow down. Just think about what you're going to say and then say it. And they didn't realize that it wasn't that. It wasn't that I didn't know what I wanted to say. It was whatever the situation was. I didn't know why I was stuttering. Um,
Mm.
you know, and they didn't really address it. So um yeah, so as I got older and I began to read, if somebody was to call, like if the teacher was to say we need somebody to read, I would be the first person to stand up, because all the bullies were scared to read because they couldn't read as well
Mm-hmm.
as I could. And you know how it is. People don't like to public speak, they don't like to read in front of people, so that was the thing. I was like, yeah, that's my strong point. Let me read. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the best at math, so that was my thing. So when the teacher asked to read, I'm reading, and they're astonished at how well I read. So, and I'm not stuttering, you know. Um, so even more fights came from that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get into every fight I had, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like those
Yeah.
those, because you're intelligent, and at the time being light skinned, and even now when you're light skinned, they view you as being soft. So I had to defend myself far more than the dark skinned brothers or the brown skinned brothers, because they automatically believe this young, skinny, pimply kid, you know what I'm saying, is soft. And then when we get into fights, they realize I don't care if I win or lose. You're just not going to do this to me. You're not going to do that to them. You have to fight me every time, whether I win or lose. Um, so, as time progressed, and I didn't really get out of special ed. Who I met in special ed, right? I met Safari. I don't know if y'all know Safari, but that was married to Nicki Minaj. I met
Mm-hmm.
him in I met him in special ed. Um, we became super close. We became friends, and we both got out of special ed like around the same time when we went to high school. So they had something called
Mm-hmm.
resource room,
Yeah, I
where they
remember
take
that.
you, right. So that's like a transition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a transition room to see if you could go swim with the regular school of fishes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they did. They had me in resource room, but prior to high school, around 13, somebody introduced me to basketball. Um,
Mm.
and I wasn't playing basketball. It wasn't on my mind. It wasn't something that I was focused on. I wanted to deal with computers. I like playing video games. My thing was that I have been focused on being a doctor, because I used to read the doctor's books my mother had, because she worked in a hospital. She wasn't a nurse, but she was part of like the design team of the architects. Um, Right. So she was like the secretary for the architects and booking their things and all that kind of stuff. So I would go there, I'd see her working. They all knew me. They would give me books, and she had books of all these medical books. So I would go through them. I knew smallpox, I knew chicken pox, and all of that kind of stuff. And so that was my focus. Like I was gonna be a doctor. And then somebody, we playing basketball next door in my boy house, and I got a jump shot. I don't know how. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never shoot a ball.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, probably like the second day, I'm throwing the ball up. I'm getting my shot. I could never put it between my legs. I couldn't do none of that, but I was able to shoot the ball. So they were always throwing the ball, yo, shoot. You know what I'm saying? Prior to that, I was playing football, right? I'm not going to even bother y'all with, you know, football was one of those things. That's what taught me how to catch the ball. So that's how I was catching back. Like they throw me the basketball, I always catch it. You know, so, but because basketball was like the thing at the time, there was a place called St. Vincent that was like 3 blocks from my house. Basketball, like an AAU team. And the dude had came to the backyard to play basketball with the older dudes because my homeboy Evans had an older brother, and they all played. You know, they played the grown up ball right after we played the children ball or whatever it was. You know, but I always wanted to play with them. So one day he saw me shooting with Evans and we shooting and all that kind of stuff. He's like, yo, bro, you can shoot. And I'm like, yeah, man, it is what it is, man. I can't put the ball between my legs. And he showed me how to put the ball between my legs. And I was like, oh, that's all I got to do. And I started doing it and practicing it, and it became simple. And he's like, yo, you should come play for us. I'm like, bro, I don't even know how to play ball. Like, I'm just playing around in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? He's like, yo, you don't know how much money you can make playing basketball? I was like, don't nobody make money playing basketball. You know, I'm one of them smart kids. I'm like, who makes money playing basketball, bro? We back here in the backyard. You can't make money playing basketball. He said, bro, you could make $1 million. And my eyes lit up, bro. I remember the feeling when he said that $1 million. I looked at him, I said, $1 million? And he said, yeah, man, you could get a contract with the NBA playing, you get $1 million. So I was like, all right, let's do it, you know? So I joined St. Vincent. I was a center. I was 13. I was probably 5'9", 5'10", you know? So they made me the center. I remember playing the first game ever with them, and I scored no points the whole season. Whole season, bro. Probably 2 buckets. Probably 2 buckets the whole season. I was so nervous that when they gave me the ball, but in practice, coach would be like, yo, why don't you do what you do in practice in the game? I'm like, I don't know, bro. I don't know what the problem is. I can't convert practice to game. I wasn't able to do that. And then he started working with me. He came to my house. We put a basketball hoop in the ground. We dug a little hole, put the cement, put the joint up, and he started teaching me the baby hook. He started teaching me post moves. And then I remember playing the second season, and, you know, and then I began to score more. You know, I began to get more rebounds. I began to, you know, start having double doubles. They're keeping track of, you know, the rebounds and the points. So I started having double doubles. I started scoring, and I'm one of the biggest kids, so it was harder for everybody to guard me. You know, so that's what started the basketball journey. And eventually, so when I got to high school, after, you know, because I wanted to make this point, so I make sure I get everything in order. When I got to high school, what really got me out of special ed wasn't the real resource room. What got me out of special ed was the coach came and found me. And I don't know how, you know, I didn't know that they had rankings. I didn't know that they kept track of AAU things. I didn't know that they did that. I was just, you know, playing ball. So I was like, I'm gonna try out for varsity. But the varsity coach came to my resource room and he was like, John Toombs? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking I'm in mad trouble because I don't know dude. He's dressed regular. He don't got nothing on that says he's part of basketball. I'm thinking about to get in trouble. He's like, yeah, he's like, yo, come with me. I want to talk to you. So I'm like, oh, here we go. You know what I'm saying? He take me out the room. He's like, yo, I heard you play basketball from, you know, from the dude from St. Vincent, I guess, or whatever he was tracking. And he was like, I need you to come play for us. And I was like, all right. He's like, you just got to try out. I was like, all right, cool. You know, so I tried out. I made varsity as a freshman. I didn't get a chance to play because I had kept getting into fights. And I remember the principal pulled me. I got a principal suspension for one of the fights I got into because Safari's in my school. The dude is bullying Safari. He's calling him all sorts of names. And Safari's just sitting there. And I'm looking at him like, yo, bro, you're not going to say nothing? And then he called him the P word. And I said, yo, bro, who you talking to? And he said, what you mean who I'm talking to? I'm talking to you. And I was like, you're not talking to me. You're talking to him. All right? And that's how that fight started. I punched him in the face. His eyes swelled up. And they brought us into the principal's office. And, you know, they was just like, yo, it was a wrap. You know, like if you get into one more fight, you're not going to be in the school. So long story short, I get connected with my cousin, Kenny P. who was running with Riverside, and he asked me to come play with him. Like the very first year I got there, he said, "Yo, come run in the summer league with us and play." And I went and I tried out for Riverside. You know, when they was at 125th Street and the Catholic church with the runaround thing at the top and the wood floor, you know what I mean? So I went to go play, and I made it, right? But I wasn't that serious about basketball, you know, so I didn't come back. I went to the tryout and I never played a game with them that summer at all. I didn't even bother with it because I kept playing with St. Vincent during the summer. You know what I'm saying? So I ran into my cousin during the summer playing Riverside. He's coaching Riverside, but I'm playing for St. Vincent. You know what I mean? So I'm in like Citywide or something like that. And back where I used to live on 125th Street or wherever it was. You know what I mean? So I ran into him. He's like, "Yo, bro," and they beat us. And he's like, "Yo, bro," he's like, "You see what I'm saying? You need to come run with us, bro. You over here playing games with these little coaches. They're not going to get you nowhere. They can't get you into the NBA. You're not going to go nowhere." So I went through that whole summer playing with them. My second year in Midwood, I didn't play no ball. I met my wife. You know, she was walking to school.
So how old were y'all when y'all met?
I was 16.
Wow.
I was 16. I was 17 and she was 15.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
She'll tell me I was wrong after this if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not, because I'm 2 years older than her, I'm guessing I was 17. And because I had got left back. So I entered into high school later, you know what I mean? So I got left back a year. So I would be like 2 years older than her when I met her, because she was born in 83. I was born in 81. So I'm 2 years older than her, especially at that time in September. Yeah, you know what I mean? So in like September, I was just about to be 17. And like her birthday's in January. So she would have been becoming 16. You know what I'm saying? But she was a freshman and she was coming in. I saw her walking and I was with Safari. I said, "Yo, Safari, go talk to her friend. I'm going to talk to the light-skinned girl. You talk to the dark-skinned girl." He said he ain't want to do it because he ain't like the dark-skinned girl. I was just like, "Yo, bro, I just need you to block her. I just need you to block her from stopping me from talking to the light." Yeah, I'm like, "Yo, let me talk to this girl. Just get her over there. Pretend like you like her. You don't got to really call her. Just pretend like you like her." You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I wound up meeting my wife. I spoke to her. And, you know, we began to connect. From that day forward, we was like inseparable. You know, she was one of the tallest girls I'd ever seen besides my cousins, who are all like 6 feet. So I had never seen any taller girls than my cousins, because they're like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", you know what I mean? Some of them, you know, and they all played ball too. So, you know, when I met my wife, I fell in love. And, you know, so that second year, right after I met her, that summer, I went to go back with my cousin, Kenny P, right? Matter of fact, I think I played in the winter. You know, they have winter leagues. I think I played in the winter. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But I know that summer because we played Omar Cook in the summer league and Citywide. So he, you know, I made the team. And you would call it, I know you're going to call it the B team. That's what team I was on. I wasn't on the traveling team. I was on the B team. You know what I mean? You know, I had aspired to get to the A team with Ron Artis and you know, K-Sound Mims and the rest of them. That's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the A team because I remember playing the A team in UDC, right? So it was the B team of Riverside versus the A team of Riverside in UDC, and I played against Ron Artis and, you know, K-Sound Mims and them, and they, you know, it was a good game. They beat us, but it was a good game. You know. So anyway, so once I got with them, you know, he was explaining to me, the coach, Ernie Leutch, is explaining to me that you're not going to go anywhere in Midwood. Even if you play, you're not going anywhere. Midwood has never graduated anybody that has gone to the NBA, right? You know how it goes. They give you that talk. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do? They're like, you got to go to Catholic school. I'm like, my mother is not going to have that. My mom's is not going to have that. She's a Jehovah's Witness. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be able to send me to Catholic school. And they said, well, we'll talk to your mother and see what happened. And I asked her, and she said, no.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And she's like, no. And she's like, I'm not paying for that. So I went back, I went back and I explained to Kenny and Ernie and Vern. I said, yo, bro, my mom's is not going to let me play at any Catholic school. She don't have the money for that. And I'm like, Kenny, you know my moms don't have the money for that. So I don't even know why you would present that to me. And, he's like, listen, we're going to pay for it. That's what,
Mm.
I mean? Ernie Lloyd was like, yo, we're going to pay for it. I was like, all right. They said, go ask your mother if we pay for it, will she allow you to go? So I went back. I said, Mom, they're going to pay for it. I don't have to take no religious classes. I don't got to do none of that. I just got to play basketball and go to school. And she said, if they really going to pay for it, then you could go. You can't take no religious classes. You can't do none of that. You know what I mean? Go ahead. If they're going to pay for it. So Kenny called my mom's, talked to her, laid it out flat. And she was like, all right, cool. So they're like, you're going to Bishop Loughlin. All right. So, you know what I mean? So they put me in Bishop Loughlin. I started to practice with them. I started to ball with them. But I was attached to my wife. She's, Bishop, you know where Bishop Loughlin is in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I know where it's at. Yeah, I know where
Right.
it's at.
So it's like near Atlantic Avenue, mad far from where I lived on Albany Avenue. So that's like an hour and a half or hour, from where I lived. So I had to make that commute every day. But then my wife is in school and I'm over here. And young love is like, I want to be with my wife. And she's trekking her all the way up there to meet me. And she started working at S&D's or something like that downtown. So it was kind of like, a thing where I could meet up with her. And it wasn't her that per se kept me from balling. What happened was I began to play and I hadn't developed an understanding. There was nobody teaching me how to balance work-life balance. You know what I'm saying? So basketball is work, school is my life. I didn't understand how to balance that, plus have a girlfriend. I didn't understand how to balance that. So my schoolwork was faltering, right? It was suffering because of it. So I remember failing. I think I failed science and social studies.
Was there the adjustment going from the public school to that kind of school in terms of the curriculum?
Nah, the curriculum was basically the same. It was there was a lot more freedom in the Catholic school, you know what I mean? There wasn't like somebody in the lunchroom like, yo, y'all gotta leave. You know what I mean? Like in public school, the security guards are sweeping the grounds all the time. They always trying to make sure you ain't cutting class. They didn't do that in the Catholic school. You know what I'm saying? The girls are a lot different. They have money. Everybody's got, they're kind of like everybody's kind of got like money. You know what I mean? Because you got to pay for the Catholic school. It's private, so it's a lot. The atmosphere is different. With people, like I was telling my children, when we move. If we were to move into an area where the community may have more money, it's the people that have more money that commit more sin normally because they have access to more things than the people that are poor, right? Or the people that are struggling. So if I can get whatever I want to, right? And we see this with the Epstein files and all this kind of stuff with the rich people. If they can get it, they're going to get it. It doesn't matter. If they want it, they're going to get it. But we are kind of subject to what we can afford. So if we can't afford it, we ain't gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? But when those communities and those children have the ability to get anything, they're gonna get it. So people had things that I ain't never seen. Our brothers playing CeeLo in the it's mad money in the lunchroom. They ain't never did that in the public school. Wasn't nobody allowed to even do that in public school. You know what I'm saying? So we in between classes playing CeeLo. You know what I'm saying? Brothers got hundreds of dollars, on the floor in school. So and the level of dress, you had to dress a certain way, you had to have, what I mean? So it kind of didn't really mess with me, but I could see that I needed to like maintain a certain lifestyle, right? So I began to try to do that. I was doing it before, but I had to like elevate it because public school, like I say, the two different communities and tax brackets, it was different. So when I realized I wasn't passing my classes, I went to the dean. I said, yo, I need to not play basketball for a second, right? Like I need to focus on school. If I could just focus on school, I would be ready to play for y'all, but I can't like do it both right now. I need to be able to focus on this so I could learn to focus on that and I could be able to merge the two. I said, yo, by the time the season starts, I'll be good. But I need, this is it's preseason, it's September. So we just practicing and we playing scrimmages against like Rice and Christ the King and doing all that kind of stuff. And I took somebody's spot who hated me. Vic hated me for taking his spot. You know what I mean? He almost got into fights with me because of it, because they brought me there to take his spot. And I didn't know that. So those type of situations was also weighing on me. Like I was cool with Vic until I came to the school and they made me start over him. You know what I'm saying? And then I realized the politics of this whole thing is like they don't care who they hurt. They just like, we need to get championships. We need to develop children. We're gonna get money for this or whatever, whatever the situation is.
Facts, yeah.
So that whole situation happened. So when I went to the dean and I told him that, he said to me, he said, yo, listen, Toombs, I'm not gonna lie to you. We brought you here to play basketball. If you're not gonna play basketball, you gotta leave.
Whoa.
That's what he told me. And I said, so I, I was kind of upset about it. So I had to think about it. And I went to Ernie Leutch about it, and he was upset with me, super upset. That I was failing, that I thought that I could not play basketball after them paying for me to play basketball. He was super upset with me. He threatened me with something that, I don't even sure if I'm ready to reveal yet, but, he threatened me with something that, it still lingers with me to this day. To be honest, it traumatized me. So when that happened, like I said, I thought about it. I thought about the threat that he made, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So when I got my grades, it said that I passed all my classes. And I know I was failing. I know I was failing those classes because the teacher came and told me I was failing the classes. You know what I mean? It wasn't by much. I was probably getting like a 60. I mean, like one of them I had a 55, and then I looked and I got a 75 and I got an 80. So I'm passing all my classes. So they made it so that I could play basketball because that's what they were worried about. They didn't want to waste their money or, so, I didn't want to disappoint Kenny. You know what I mean? I didn't want to disappoint everybody who was looking up to me to be that person in the family to make it into the NBA and, probably support people and help them out and be that guy. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to do that. But it just didn't work out. You know what I'm saying? After Ernie Leutch threatened me, I'm gonna just say he threatened me with sexual harassment. Let's just put it like that. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? So, he threatened me in a sexual way, like he was gonna do something to me sexually. If I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, and I wound up leaving because I couldn't do it. So I go to Riverside, I speak to them, and Ernie Leutch takes me into the locker room to talk to me, and he really tried to do what he threatened to do. You understand what I'm saying? He tried to pull my pants down and all of that. You understand what I'm saying? And that traumatized me to this day. And he was he's the reason why I didn't go to the NBA. He's the reason why, because if they like had he treated it the way that he should have treated it, like this is a child. You understand what I'm saying? Like he's going through stuff. Kenny understood my past, but nobody really they wasn't like coaching me in life. They were coaching me in basketball. Nobody was coaching me in life.
Man, that's so deep, bro. Like so much of that goes on now when you see like I see a lot of guys worried about what people could do on the court, man, and not understanding what goes on off the court. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a young fella that I've been mentoring. He about to graduate, you know what I'm saying, this year. I call him my godson. And off the court, when he not playing, we don't talk hoops, man. I talk to him about life. I talk to him about the stuff that I learned, the stuff that I learned at the church, the stuff about being a man, the stuff about knowing how to pick a right woman. You know what I'm saying? The stuff about having dignity, about him being a man, going through adversity. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff, trying to raise him up that way, because that ball gonna stop bouncing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And then you're gonna be stuck.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They're not getting you the tools. When I was raised up, it was more about how many women you could get. Make sure you got a good job. You could have a wife. Your wife is gonna be the nice, wholesome woman, and the side chick is gonna be the bad, freaky one. You know what I mean? And that's what was presented as success to me. not understanding that's adultery.
Right.
Not understanding that where that's sending me, the wickedness that's bringing upon me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're right. They wasn't raising you the right way. They was raising you to hoop. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But go ahead, brother, carry on.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like I was looking for, not per se like I was looking for a father figure, but I was looking for the men that were left in my life to provide me with that, with that coaching that a young man needs. Because my mother didn't understand, like I was bad. You know what I mean? Like I got into more fights than I could even tell you. I stole from my mother. I stole money. I stole wedding rings just to take the girls before I met my wife. I was a thief. I was a liar. You know what I'm saying? I was, like I said, no conscience. Stole stuff from my sisters, going in wallets, like all sorts of wickedness, bro. So, um, when I told my mother what Lloyd did, because only my mother knew and my wife knew before I said anything like this ever. Nobody's ever known. So and that came up like he was sexually abusing children. I don't know if you remember,
Yeah, I
right?
remember that.
And there were children that was grown ups at the time that was bringing things out that he did, and they started a lawsuit. They called me and said, "Yo, you were playing with Ernie Lloyd at Riverside. We got the records and this, that, and the third." So I don't know how you ain't find it, but that's another story. You know what I'm saying?
Who you mean?
Yeah, how you
been
ain't
knew
see
about
me.
this.
No, I mean,
About this.
I don't know how you ain't see me at Riverside. I know
Oh
I ain't got
yeah,
no pictures. I know I ain't got no pictures, but
I knew about the lawsuit. So
oh
when you
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
bringing, as soon as you said his name, that's the first thing rung in my head. You know
Right,
what I'm saying? Like they
right.
lost. Then they had to change the name, the different names
Yeah,
to the Hawks and this and that, like all
right,
that
right.
kind of stuff because of that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I was just saying for you finding me like in Riverside. The lawyers found me and they called me and said, "Yo,
Wow.
Mr. Toombs, we see that you was with them." So at this time I had already left. I had started playing with gauchos with Ziggy. I think his name is Ziggy. You remember Ziggy with the earpiece and
Yeah,
all that?
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
started playing with them. I started playing with some other team like Screen and them, I was just becoming a mercenary on the court. I was just playing basketball at Unlimiteds. I was just playing against, like half man, half amazing, and all these kind of dudes. I
Yeah.
was just playing ball wherever I could. But I had went and got my GED. So like I'm gonna get my GED. I'm just gonna get out of school because I don't have time for this. You know what I'm saying? I need to get to the money. My mother needs help. I don't have time for this because at the time my mother had begun to develop, a lot of health issues. She became overweight. She had got an ulcer on her leg that was like eating her flesh, and her bandage had to be changed every day. She had to be taken to the bathroom. She had to be walked to the bathroom. She had to be helped out of the bed. She had to, you know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of stuff that I had to do because once my sisters found their husbands and got married and all that, they had left. You know what I'm saying? So it was just me and my mother in the house. Or if my sister was there, she was working, you know what I'm saying? So she wasn't there at the key times that I was there, you know what I mean? So I was, not to say the key times, but she was at work. So I was there because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't working like that. So I went and I got my GED. I went and got working papers. I tried to work, but every time I went to work, my mother would call me and she needed me to be home. You know what I'm saying? So, like I lost a lot of jobs because of that. Because she would call me. Like I remember being at Barnes and Nobles. I'm a security guard. I'm escorting all of the stars that come in to do the book the book presentations. Like the book signings and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I walked with Barbara Bush. A whole bunch of people. So but there was times she would call me and I gotta leave. I can't stay at work the whole time. So there was a lot of jobs I didn't have. So what I began to do was hustle because that was the only thing that I could do where I could stay home and help my mother. You know what I'm saying? But my older sister, she didn't really see it in the light that he can't go to work. You know what I'm saying? So for my older sister, I love her, but she didn't understand that I was making a sacrifice that I shouldn't have really had to make as a young man.
As a
You know what I'm
kid,
saying? I
fact,
was a
fact.
child. You know what I mean? I had got my GED in 2000. I think I was like 18 or 19. You know what I mean? So like right after I left Bishop Loughlin, I had got there when I was 17. I left by the time I was like that next like so they set it up so that I would go to school that December. You know what I'm saying? So I stayed in it till December. Then by September, I was gone. You know what I'm saying? So I went to South Shore. South Shore was a terrible school. I had learned to sell drugs there. I didn't think that I would be doing it because it was just like, that's what I was, it was just bud, at the time. So, I did that here and there. It wasn't nothing crazy, like that was my career or nothing like that. I wasn't making like crazy money or nothing. It was like, $20 here one day, maybe $20 here, like 4 days later or something, just trying to help my boy out. So I got my GED 2000 or 99, one of those. Me and Safari did it at the same time. We still stuck together. We was homeboys for a long time. And then, so I was, I'm hanging out with them. I stopped hanging out on my block and started hanging out with Safari and them on their block, which was probably like 30 minutes from me if I walk. But I would walk over there, I ride my bike over there, I chill over there because the atmosphere was different. It was more like in a, I can say upper middle class, but like a medium upper middle class. There was like a bunch of white people still in the area. In my area, there was none of that. It was all Benjamin. I say Benjamin, all Jamaicans, Haitians. You know what I'm saying? Jamaicans, Haitians, Trinidad. It was the whole Caribbean island, and maybe some of us regular Negroes, there. And so I started to hang out with them. And that was where I predominantly was for a while. I was kind of the crazy dude. Like I said, I still dabbled in death. So like all my tattoos, everything is about death. I don't have anything on my body that's about life. Like I have burning angels, I got dragons, what I'm saying? All that stuff. It wasn't nothing about life. I tattooed empty blackness in Japanese on my leg. I got demons on my back. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, all death. I didn't have any life. The only life I have is Goku. And I never really watched Dragon Ball Z, but because they couldn't kill him, I felt like I was going to come back to life and I'm going to keep coming back to life. I felt like, because I have an angel that's receiving a basketball from the Grim Reaper to save him from dying. So I felt like that's what I did. I was always coming back, and that I was going to just choose it again. They're going to give me the option to come back and play ball, and that's what I'm going to do. But this time I'm going to get it right. So that's what I believed.
So how did you go from being this fascinated with death to becoming a man of light?
Yeah, so right, that was my next thing, right? So at that time with Safari and them, they were calling me Lucifer. That was my name.
Wow.
Like they would call me Lucy, they would call me all of that. Like if I made a character on the video game, they would call me Lucy. Like I made the character's name Lucifer, I made him dark, I made him black. That was my thing. So I'm gonna tell you what happened, and then I'm gonna get to the part, right? So when I was 19 or 20, I had fell asleep in my room, and my mother had managed to make it downstairs to cook some food. And I remember smelling the food as I fell asleep. So I fell asleep, and I remember her calling me. So I tried to wake up, and I couldn't wake up. It was like kind of like sleep paralysis, but it was different. I had sleep paralysis my whole life. I had dealt with that. Like my dreams have always been lucid and crazy. I can taste, I can smell. Like my dreams have always been crazy. I didn't really get into it because I didn't want to drag down the whole thing and tell you about every single dream and all these kind of stuff, right? But this is a key dream. So what happened was when she called me, I tried to wake up, couldn't. I tried to sit up. I can still see it vividly to this day. I'm trying to get up in my bed, and I tried to sit up and I couldn't. And I'm like, I'm bugging out. I'm thinking to myself like, I'm bugging. I must be crazy tired. So I tried to get up again, and I sit back, and it's like I can't get up. And then my whole room fills up with like these clouds, like to the point where I couldn't even see my room. And then in front of me, there's this huge wooden door with a square keyhole in the door, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out what it is. And because I'm used to having these dreams, for me, it was like, or these visions or whatever it was, right? At the time, I'm thinking to myself, let me figure out what's going on. So I just sat back and I'm waiting for it to stop. You know what I'm saying? So I was actually able to reach out and touch the door. So I grabbed the door and I shake it, and I can hear the echo. When the door is huge and you can hear the echo. It's so huge I can't even see the top. So I'm shaking the door and I'm hearing the echo, boom, boom. And it's like I can't open it. And then I get this key that has a square top on it it fits right into the door. So I put the key in the door and I'm trying to open this door, and it's locked, and I'm shaking it and it's echoing. And the voice says, Jason, this is the key to divine happiness. use it when you're ready, right? So I'm put the key back in the door and I'm like, yo, divine happiness. I'm like, yo, I want that now. How can I get in? They're like, listen, use it when you're ready. So I'm like, I'm ready now, right? That's what I said to the voice. I said, yo, I'm ready now. And I tried to open the door again. And it says to me, listen, Jason, this is the key to divine living. Use it when you're ready. I said, you said this is the key to divine happiness. Why can't I use it now? I said, listen, use it when you're ready. And all that stuff disappeared. I woke up and my mom was like, Jason, you coming downstairs to get the food or not? So I wake up and I go get the food. Years later, I'm running the studio. And there's a brother that comes out with an album called Blame God. And, you know, I'm just making a long story short. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in between. But that album is what started me down this path, because I wanted to explain to him that you can't blame God for everything, right? So during this time, I'm already selling pounds. I'm already dealing with large connects. I'm already moving probably like 3,000, 4,000 a week, or sometimes in a day, you know, and that's what I was doing, right? So I'm like, yo, you can't blame God for everything, bro. That's crazy. As a man, you have to take responsibility for at least some of the actions you do. Because back, you know, now at this age, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God because my mother had allowed me to not come to church because games on Sunday. So I can't go to the Kingdom Hall. So I'm playing basketball instead of believing in God or going to church. So I lost my way of believing in God. I understood there was a higher power, but I didn't believe in the white Jesus. I didn't believe in, you know, the Jehovah's Witness way of doing it. I began to mock religion, mock Jesus, mock the Bible, outwardly, you know, to people who believed. You know, but never to my mother. I never did it to my mother, but, you know, outside the house. So she never knew that I was atheist. She had no idea. You know, but I would come in smelling like weed. I would come in, you know, but because she needed me, she kind of didn't complain. She never once complained to me about it. I got to bless her for that. She never once complained to me and said, yo, you smell like weed. You got to stop doing this. She never said that to me. She just tolerated it as a woman of God. You know, kind of understanding I'm going through my growing pains, hoping that one day I will find the Most High, right? So the album comes out, Blame God. Bro, you can't blame God for everything. I'm going to prove to you that you can't blame God for everything. So I'm on the internet. I'm over here trying to figure out how to find it. I'm Googling stuff. I'm on YouTube trying to find things. And this is back when YouTube videos was probably like 10, 15 minutes long. You know, so I find this dude named Phil Valentine. So I listen to Phil Valentine. And this Ak is over here talking about the Tetragrammaton and standing on a mountain and praying up in the air. I'm like, yo, this is weird. I'm not doing none of that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't doing none of that. You know what I mean? So I skipped the video, found, you know, another video comes up. I'm like, this ain't it. This is not it. I need something that's going to break this thing down, that's going to tear it to pieces. Then I find a video with Elder Ricard. It says 12 tribes, the 12 lost tribes found. So I'm like, I'm watching everything else, right? Let me roll this L up. Let me watch this video too, right? But before I get to that, well, anyway, let me get to that. I'm gonna tell you how, because my wife is in my life now. She's back. Like, we broke up and she comes back, right? That's after my homeboy, he gets shot like 7 times in front of my house. My other homeboy gets shot once or twice. He dies in my house. Blood everywhere. I had to clean up the, you know, the blood, everything. They questioned me as if I did it. You know, so once she heard somebody on Albany got shot, she came like 3 days later, and she found, you know, that it wasn't me. She thought I had got shot. You know, so when she came back, she had never left, right? So now that I find the Elder Ricard video and I'm watching it, you know, she's upstairs, she's cooking, she's trying to teach me to be a Seventh-day Adventist because that's what her mother was and that's what she was. So I was going to Seventh-day Adventist church. I was dealing with that kind of stuff. You know, so now I find Elder Ricard's video, and you know, though I was an atheist, I was trying to please my wife. I really wasn't like,
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know when you said it.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to find a way to, you know, like make
I
this
know
thing
when you
work.
said it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you know, my thing with them was like they passed the cup around like 5 times, and I was like, yo, I came in there with $20. I have nothing now. I'm like, yo, babes, I ain't coming back here. This ain't for me, and I'm not trying to pay these guys to teach me, you know what I mean, the Bible. When I never had to do that with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I might as well just go back and be a Jehovah's Witness. I'm going to do this, you know what I mean. So anyway, you know, I find Elder Ricard, 12 Lost Tribes Find. I roll my L up, spark it. I'm listening to the Ock talk, the Elder talk, and I'm like, he's going into the Bible and showing me that we the Jews. I'm like, how are black people the Jews? That is impossible. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, them white people are us or we them? I'm like, yo, bro, that don't even make sense. So I pause the video. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to wrap my head around what he's saying. And I'm like, nah. So he going, you know, he go into the scriptures. The video is probably like 5, 6 parts, 7 parts. So he going through it. So I'm like, yo, I pause the video, put my L down, I go upstairs. My wife see me, I come back with a Bible. You know what I mean? I'm going downstairs back into the basement with a Bible. So I'm like, yo, let me see if this Ak is really going into the Bible, if he's just saying what he's saying. Because, you know, preachers like to do that nonsense. So I'm like that, you know. So he like Deuteronomy 28 and 68. It says that, the slave ships is in the Bible, right? You will go into a place, you're going to go into Egypt again by way of ships, and ye shall serve your enemies in the land which thou knowest not, and no man shall buy you. And I look down at the Bible, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, the slave ships have been in the Bible this whole time, and I'm sitting here believing in a white Jesus, and y'all not telling me that we the Jews, bro. I was so upset. Before I could even receive it as a blessing, I was totally upset. Angry. I was angry with my mother. I was angry with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I was angry with the images. I was angry with the government. Bro, I was angry with everybody because I had listened to a man named John Todd, who was a 13 or 33rd degree Mason. That's what me and my wife used to be on, smoking and going down the rabbit holes. You know what I'm saying? With all the conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. So I was adapt, and I understood that there was things that was going on that we didn't understand. But I had no idea that they were hiding our identity in the Bible and teaching us and putting up images to make us feel like we are not the people. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. It's no way that this, and he started going into Acts 13 that the word Niger means black, and Paul, Benjamin, and all these brothers is black. There's no way that Moses could have been in Egypt. There's no way that Joseph could have sat down there and his father his brothers would have not known that he was a Jew, because if he was white, he would have stood out in Egypt. I'm like, yo, bro, I ain't even think of this. Because you know, when they presenting you with the information, there's no way to question this. And you not thinking that they lying. So I'm sitting here, I'm eating this up, and it's poison. And this Ak is telling, it took him 15 minutes to show me that I was a Jew. To show me that the slave ships is in the Bible. And I'm chilling, following. I'm like, yo, bro. So I scratched my head, and I put the L down. I slammed the Bible down. I went upstairs. I said, yo, babes, you know that we the Jews? And she looked at me like I was like the stupidest person on earth. You know what I'm saying? She looked at me crazy, bro. She was washing dishes and cooking her son. And she said, what? Jews? What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm watching the video downstairs. The brother's going through the Bible and showing me that we the Jews, that we the children of Israel. It's in the Bible. She said, that's not in the Bible. I said, look. I said, look at the slave ships right here. And she's like, wow. And she's like, nah, we got to go talk to the brothers and see what's going on, right? So we go to the Seventh-day Adventist church. They had a Bible study. I'm talking to the Ak. I'm like, yo, bro. Right? Right? So this is Saturday. We're going to go Saturday because that's where it's at, right? I'm going to go to church Saturday. This is probably like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I had like 3 days. So I'm listening to all the Elder Ricard videos now, right? Smoking and listening, smoking, drinking, listening. I'm like, I'm taking notes. And I'm doing all this kind of stuff. So now I go to the Seventh-day Adventist church. I say, yo, bro, after the thing. I say, yo, bro, am I a Gentile? Right? And he says, yeah. I said, what type of Gentile am I? Like, what's my nation? What's my nationality? He said, you're African. I said, prove to me I'm African with the Bible. Just like that. I said, bro, show me in the Bible I'm African. He said, what? He said, what you mean prove to you African? You African. You come from Africa. I'm like, show me it in the Bible. All you got to do is just show me in the Bible. I said, just like the same tone. Because I'm already angry. You know what I'm saying? I'm already angry, and I can't take it out on my mom's. So my anger is aimed directly at these dudes right now because I'm like, yo, bro, show me in the Bible I'm an African. You got to prove to me I'm a Gentile. You can't just tell me. My wife will tell you. I'm sitting here telling them this exact. I say, bro, you can't just tell me that I am an African, that I'm a Gentile, and you can't go into the Bible that you're saying that the information is based on and show me that I'm a Gentile. If you can't do that, then you are lying. He said, listen, man, I don't got time for this. If you don't believe that, that don't got nothing to do with me. Like, why I got to show you that you're African? I'm like, because you keep telling me I'm African. He said, because that's what you are. I said, so show me in the Bible. He said, you know what? I don't got time for this, man. If you don't want to learn under us, you don't have to learn. You could go do whatever you want to do. Dark-skinned brother, red. He got tight. Angry because there's other people around and they're all like this. Eating the popcorn, waiting for him to show me that I'm a Gentile. And he couldn't. So I left. Said, yo, bro, I ain't coming back.
What was your next move? What was your next move after that?
So now I'm looking to get baptized. And the only people I knew that was teaching the truth was Elder Recall at the time. So, you know, the name of the church was Light and Body Church at the time. It wasn't GOCC. It was still Light and Body Church. So, you know, so I'm trying to contact the only number that I have, the only email that I have. Me and my wife are sending emails. We're sending numbers. We're trying to do all that. We're trying to get in contact with them. Right. So, I finally got in contact with them, right? But during that time, what I did was I started taking Elder Recall's lessons and preaching in front of my house. There's still videos out there somewhere where I'm standing in front of my house with a Hannah Montana microphone and a fake meat tree made out of
by yourself?
By myself, bro. There was nobody. Wow. There was no church. There was no New York church. There was no Jersey body. There was nothing. Wow. There was no Philly body, and that was it. And I think they might have had an Atlanta body, maybe, but I know they had a Detroit body. I'm gonna tell you how. I'll tell you how I knew they had a Detroit body as we get closer to the end of this, right? But so I finally get in contact with him. He hits me up. He's like, "Yo, brother, we leaving next Sunday, or this Sunday, or something like that." He said, "Yo, we leaving Sunday. We're doing baptism on Shabbat. If you want to get baptized, you got to come down this Shabbat." I said, "I'm gonna get down there, bro. I'm in Brooklyn." I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take the Chinese bus. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, "Nah, brother, don't worry about it. We got a brother coming down there that live in Brooklyn. He'll drive you down there. I'm gonna get in contact with him. He'll come pick you and your wife up, and you guys will come down there." I was like, "Oh, perfect." Right? So he's like, "Yeah, you got to come down Friday though." You know what I'm saying? Because that's when he's coming. I'm like, "All right, cool." So I go, I come, he pick us up Friday. Me and my wife, we packed our bags. We got ready for the weekend. Got our white garments and all that stuff. So I'm like, "All right, cool. We out." I know this brother from a hole in the wall. But it's not the first time I got in a car with a stranger. I went on a road trip. I can't even tell you about that nonsense I used to do. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? So I get in the car with a stranger with me and my wife. We go down there after speaking to a brother I met on the internet. You know what I'm saying? So now we go down there. There is a brother named Gabar that whose house we stayed in, not our former elder, but another brother, the first Gabar that I ever met. And me and him became really cool. We hit it off from the back, you know what I'm saying? We stayed in his house, my wife and his wife connected. Everybody, we having a good time. We go to the Bible study, Elder Recall's teaching. I'm sitting there looking at the Ak, like, yo, I can't believe this is the Ak that told me I'm an Israelite. You know what I'm saying? That I'm here. You know what I mean? Not being like all starstruck, but like, I can't believe I'm about to get baptized. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be honest, I had this kind of like, oh, Elder Recall's going to baptize me, right? So I was even more excited to be baptized, two, to be baptized by the brother that got all this knowledge and spirit that I'm watching, right? So I'm like, yeah, this is the best day ever, right? And he's like, all right, brother, I'm about to leave. This brother right here, his name is Brother Lawyer, and his brother is going to baptize you, Dawada. I was like, all right, cool. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I don't care who baptized me. I'm getting baptized though. Yeah, today, right? Yeah, brother, you're getting baptized today. They're gonna take you down to the river over there, the Philly thing, and they're gonna baptize you. I was like, all right, cool. So there was another brother there named Yamala, which eventually becomes my sister's husband, who's in Israel today. Right. So so we walk in, we talking, and we get to the river, and they baptize us. And from that point forward, me and Gabar started preaching in Philly, started preaching in Jersey, And remember, I was reading on a college level, so all I wanted to do was read. I remember looking at the brothers. I wanted to be that brother where they'd be like, read, and I'm on it. I got the scripture. I got everything ready. I already know where you want to go. Yeah, read. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to repeat it when they say, and what? And what? And I wanted to be that guy that knew exactly, you know what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to do. So all I did was read.
How did you break the news to your mom, and how did she take it?
Yeah, so I told her I was going to get baptized. I mean, she was melancholy about it. I was trying to explain to her that we couldn't eat pork and that we following the dietary law, because Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't follow the dietary law. If people don't know, they have their own Bibles, they have their own dictionaries, they have their own reading materials. They don't use outside sources. So I began to show her once I began to get deeper. Once I got baptized and began to become deeper in the knowledge, I began to try to show her the Apocrypha. She started sending Jehovah's Witnesses here to the house. And I mean, not here, but to the house I was living in Brooklyn. She began to send Jehovah's Witnesses. They would come and talk to me, and I would destroy the doctrine. I would just kill it. They would bring these papers and talk about, the Apocrypha is not really biblical. It's what they would label as spurious text, text that could possibly be false because it's not found in the Bible. But I would show them, this is the King James Bible, the 1611. It has it in there. So you can't tell me it's not a part of the Bible. So I began to break them down. I don't know if they were telling my moms I was lost or not, but sometimes I would go into the room and I had the wrong spirit. I'm not gonna lie. I had to learn to fix that, like to not be that way with my mother, because I was so on fire and so angry.
Yeah, we all do that. I was the same way. We all do that. We all do that when you first find out. I was so angry at all the old pastors I had. I was so angry at like the system. I was so angry at, but I remember being young and hearing KRS-One joint, Why Is That? And he broke it down on that song back then. You know what I'm saying? And,
I ain't never heard it.
Oh, I'm gonna send it to you. Oh no, he broke it all the way down. You know what I mean? And I remember doing it at a talent show at church, and I remember getting in trouble. And it was that point when they was like, they went to my mom and they was like, listen, only way he could come to church is he got to come with you. And he can't, like, nah, he was just like, we don't want him around the kids. We don't want to, because I was a problem. Like, I always knew what we was into wasn't right. I always knew that, like, it just didn't make sense. You get what I'm saying? Like, I could just get in this water, get out, and just do whatever I want, and I still get to heaven. And they could never answer my question of, like, why are we poor? Why do we live in the ghettos? Why do we go through the stuff we go through? Every time I ask them that, they'd be like, it don't matter what color we are. It don't matter the color. And then I'll say, well, why he look like this on the picture, but the Bible says he looked different? And I used to ask those questions. You know how I am, bro. Like, so I was like, I was going hard as a young boy. And then you had so many other options outside of, like, I'm a little older than you. So we had X-Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers. We had BDP. We had Public Enemy. We had all these people talking this other conscience stuff that made more sense than what they was talking. So we was trying to find anything that gave us some identity. So we went through the phases of wearing the medallions and all of that stuff, and the Black Fist and the X-Clan and the PRT and this and that, because we was searching. But when I heard why is that, he broke it down, and the way he was saying it, he went to Shem and all of that. He broke all of that down, and then I always knew something was wrong. So once I got it, once my wife introduced me to it and told me about it, and once I got out of rehab, and I was like, I knew the church I was at, my spirit just was like, that's not it. See, what happened was when I was younger, I was searching for it. But when I got to college and I took that drink and I started wilding with the women and stuff, I just went away from all of that. So then it took me to wait till I get all the way back sober again to really return back to that person that was searching. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then once I finally got back into it, and she told me about it, and she was smart though. First, she sent me Stephen Darby, and he was kind of like a crossover. he's kind of like he preached the Christian way, but the topics he talk about is more like it's like a bridge over to be understanding you're Israelite. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He preached a lot of conviction,
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff, and he preached a lot of who we are. We're Israel. He talked about the fraternities and the rap music and the wickedness and all of that stuff. He talked about all of that. So it was kind of the bridge, and then I started searching myself. Then I found IUIC. I saw them first. I loved their brotherhood. But when I saw how they was talking to people on the street, I said, I can't see myself ever doing that.
Right.
Like that wasn't my spirit. I wasn't that kind of person.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and then when she showed me Elder Ricard, he was talking about how it's not the white people's fault, it's our fault because of we transgressed the law, our ancestors did, and that it starts with us, with our families. That started to make sense to me. And I was like, here I am though. But I was angry too, bro.
Yeah.
I was so wilding. I remember I was wilding, bro. I remember one time I was still doing basketball, and I remember, bro, this when I got off of social media because I was wilding. I was just going crazy, right? I still had my basketball company, and I remember posting a kid at a party blowing out candles around all the other kids. And I said, you guys see a birthday party, but I see a ritual. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. My mom don't even got social media. No social medias at all. She hates social media. I think my sister snitched on me. My mom was like, boy, are you crazy? Don't you know you got customers? Like, what's wrong with you? And then that's when I was like, yo, you got to get off until you learn more how to be able to conduct yourself with this.
Yeah.
So I was off Facebook and all that for like more than 3 years, bro. Like, cause I had too much inside of me, too much anger and too much of that stuff to and I wanted and my other problem is when I get into something and I know it works, I want everybody to do it.
Yeah. You want all your friends, you want all the friends you grew up with to be on the same page.
Everybody do it. How was it? Now continue with your stuff. How was it when you broke the news to your friends and stuff, and like, how did they receive you, and how did you deal with that shift?
Well, like I was saying, like first my mom's, battling with my mom's, I had to learn not to do that. She ain't deserved that, you know what I'm saying? So we wound up getting to a place where I went and talked to her about it, but in the beginning she was still convincing me it was okay. So I went back and forth eating pork and shrimp while I was learning, the scriptures before I got baptized. Once I got baptized, I completely cut all that off. But then I met brother. There's a brother now. He's a bishop now over the Caribbean, Bishop Yatazakwa. Before he was bishop, he lived in Brooklyn. But then it was there's another brother that we met named Brother Halam, who was in Jersey. So Halam would come and preach with me in Brooklyn, like by the 2 train stop on Flatbush and Nostrand. So we would preach over there. And then when we met Yatazakwa, because Yatazakwa lived in Brooklyn and was in far closer proximity, in a proximity where we could come and meet on a regular basis, we just went out and preached whenever we could. And if Halam could come, he would come. So I started preaching out there on Flatbush probably like 4 to 5 times a week, 6 times a week. You know what I'm saying? We started doing Bible studies in my house, and my mother began to see the change in me. And I think she respected the fact that at least I was following the Bible and I believed in the God of the Bible. I just didn't believe in it the way that she did, but it was making me a better person because I wasn't selling drugs anymore. I wasn't smoking. I wasn't out there drinking. I wasn't bringing girls in and out the house under her nose. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't have the studio in the basement. I wasn't wilding like that anymore. I was done with it. So I think she valued my relationship with God the way that I had it, instead of me being the person that I was 6 months ago. Right. So now I'm preaching on the corners, I'm preaching on the streets, and I'm seeing my homeboys. And I'm talking, and you know how, if you watch me in my old videos, I was fire. I wasn't, the understanding I need to be watered too. I was all fire. I want everybody, like you said, I want everybody with me. If you're not going to be with me, then then go ahead, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't need you distracting me right now that I'm in this place where I have found something that I hold so valuable to me. I don't need you telling me that it's not valuable when you guys had
Mm.
nothing to give me prior to this. Before this, when I was smoking and drinking and I was wilding out with y'all ain't have no problems with me. Now I'm
Facts.
preaching. Now,
Facts.
now I'm preaching and brothers is looking at me that I know for 30 years, 20 years, well, at the time, 27 years or so. You know what I mean? Or at least 20 years. You know what I mean? 20 years at least. They looking at me like they don't know me. They
Mm.
walking by me in the street. They're not giving me pounds. They're not saying, what's up, Toombs. They're not doing none of that. They just walking by
Mm.
me. And then I get back to the block. I'm done preaching. I'm chilling. You know, I'll go to the store or something. And brothers is like, you know, one of my best friends I grew up with. He like he used to call me Uncle J. He still call me Uncle J. The brother that got shot. He like, yo, Uncle J, man, yo, I'm here. He Jamaican. He like, yo, Uncle J, I'm hearing you out there on the streets preaching and stuff. Bro, you good? You know what I'm saying? So he
Mm.
asked me, he said, yo, bro, you good? He said, your brother's talking about you going crazy, man. You good? I'm like, I'm good, bro. I'm like, I just don't, you know what I mean? I'm just not living that lifestyle no more. I'm trying to tell y'all Israel. He like, I ain't with all that God stuff, bro. You know what I mean? You know how I do, man. I'm trying to get this money. I don't got time for that. So I'm like, bro, all right, man. I'm just telling you, you know. So I try building with them. Everybody on my block, multiple times. I tried building with them. Um, they just didn't see it the way that I saw it. You know, I did um I did so much preaching out there, bro, for years. Until like I got spit at, I got Bibles knocked out of my hand till it ripped. I got
Mm.
like there's one brother, me and Yatazak were out there preaching. I wish I could, you know, for a second witness. We out there preaching and dude walk up, he waddled up like this, no lie. Short dude walked up. He looked at us and he waddled off. And he came back with he bought a whole fish, bro, with the ice on the white paper. And he threw it down in front of us and cursed at us and
Mm.
left. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
Demon.
And I'm just
Demon
like,
upstairs.
what type of me and Yatazaka were laughing, you know what I mean? Because we don't understand why you did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at this
Mm.
time, the other Israelites is out there, IUIC, AUC, like they all come into
Mhm.
Brooklyn preaching on the corner. So I'm standing out there, I'm battling with all of them. It's just me and Yatazaka. And mind you, there's still no New York church. So one
Mm.
day, I think Halam got a call from the Gabar that was from Philly, because he was connected directly with Elder Ricard. He called Halam, or maybe the elder called Halam and said, yo, you guys are gonna be joining under an this elder that we know, this brother we know that has been a part of my life. So Elder was telling us that he had been a part of his life. He knows him from the old churches and stuff like that, right? And that I think he was doing Bible studies in the Bronx or something like that. So he was like, y'all guys are going to do um you guys are going to go under him because he has more experience. He's been in the walk, right? And I trust him to run the church. So y'all guys are going to have a church, and now you're going to go under this elder named Elder Gabar, the Elder Gabar that we know of, our ex-elder,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we go, we meet him, we talk, you know, and we do all this kind of stuff. He lets us know what he wants us to do, and stuff like that. So we became the first deacons in New York, me, Yatazakwa, and Halam. And Aban was a part of it. So if you know Aban from the
Yeah, I
Jersey
know
Bible,
about.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
about.
So
Yeah.
Aban was helping Elder Gabar. I don't remember if he was a deacon or not, or if he had a position. It don't matter because his spiritual position is you know, it's written in the heavens. You know, because like the titles and all that kind of stuff, like people used to come over to me and be like, yeah, Elder Quam. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, bro, I'm not an elder. I'm just, you know, and to be honest, I didn't know I was a deacon. Let me just put that out there. Because Elder Gabar never called us deacons. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I didn't know that I was a deacon until somebody came and told me I was a deacon. They're like, yo, Deacon Quam. And I'm like, I'm not a deacon. And then they're like, yeah, you are a deacon. And then I look on some of the videos and you see Deacon Quam. So if you go to some of the old New York
Mhm.
GOC things, if you scroll all the way down, you know, 16 years ago, you'll see me, Halam, and Yatazaka teaching, with Elder Gabar teaching, and all that kind of stuff. And they may say deacon. So I didn't know. Right. So then we eventually meet the bishop that's over New York now, Bishop Shimon. So he begins preaching. And I remember asking, and yo, bro, I'll be honest with you, I said, yo, I need a brother, right? Because like all our voices were cool. But I was like, yo, I need a brother with a voice like Elder Lawyer. I need a voice like that to read for us. Because people, you know, when people hear Elder Lawyer voice, you'd be like, You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? He
100%,
got that,
100%.
you know what I mean, that eloquent, that deep, you know what I mean, meaningful voice that make the scriptures sound like you hearing it from God. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm,
So
mhm,
I'm like, I need somebody with that type of voice. And one day we meet a brother named Yatab, right? You know
mm,
Yatab from the
mhm,
Philly body. So we meet
mhm,
Yatab, and Yatab start talking. I said, bro, I said, that's our reader. I said, nobody else is reading.
mm,
Yatab is reading. You know what I mean? So whenever I could get Yatab, so we started doing what they now call the subway series. We started getting on the train. We started taking the 2 train, right? So we had Shabbat classes on 125th Street with the elder right around the corner from another Israelite church. So we have to walk past that Israelite church to get to our church. And there was always some sort of like conversation with them. You know, we always try to keep it cordial, but there was always some conversation with them. You know, because they wasn't used to seeing other Israelites coming down that path and not going to their church. So we started the subway series. We're preaching not only on the streets, but now we're preaching from Flatbush Avenue all the way to 241st Street in the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? So we're on the train for 2.5 hours on one car preaching. Right. Excuse me. You know, so we started doing that. We did it on the Shabbat. So the rule was you had to be in Shabbat, but the elder kind of had leniency with us because he knew that we was out there preaching. So I would always take like one brother and go out there and preach. So we met, you know, Yatab, Yatazakwa, Bishop Shamal had came on board. Then we met another brother named Amath, who was in Brooklyn with us, who became the deacon over Boston. And then we met another brother named Kazal, or Cassidy, who's a rapper now. He became the deacon over North Carolina, and we just kept preaching. Then we eventually meet Deacon Aaron or Bishop Aaron,
mm.
right? So he comes in. I remember looking at this act like he was police. I used to always think Bishop Aaron was police. I ain't gonna lie. They tell you. I used to be. I come over and be like, "Hey, brother, what's going on, man? It's your first time? Yeah, okay. Who told you about this church?" You know what I'm saying? Like trying to figure out, like trying to test the waters. Like, yo, bro, you're not from the hood we from, so you got a pea coat on, you're a little cool, you're a little more, business attire than everybody else here. You know what I'm saying? So, but
How
yeah, he
did
was.
how
Mhm.
did how did being in this walk help you become a better husband and a better father?
I began to when I began to read the scriptures, it outlined for me what a man was. I understood by reading the scriptures what a man stood for, what he should stand for, based on the patriarchs: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Enoch.
Mm,
Even though Adam did what he did, he still was a solid husband, even in his sin.
mm,
He was still the head of his household. He stayed with his wife, even though she brought him the destruction. He didn't shun her for it. He didn't want to divorce her for it. He didn't want to kill her for it. He only wanted to, and as you know, the books of Adam and Eve outlined as far deeper than most people understand. He wanted to build her back up to be the woman that would not do these things again.
mm,
Right. So it taught me, of course, Christ said that you as a husband are supposed to put yourself in front of the church. You have to put yourself in front of your wife. You have to do that. You have to protect what you love. And because Christ loved the church and gave his life for the church, we should do the same thing. Christ labored for the church. He blood, literal blood, sweat, and tears for the body, for the church, to make sure that it could gain entry into the kingdom. So that's what was the foundation for me as a man. And then understanding the order, right? According to First
mm,
Corinthians, right? It tells you that the head of every man is Christ, right? Excuse me, the head of every man is Christ, and the head of Christ is God, right? And God and Christ are in agreement, and Christ does not try to supersede his father. He doesn't argue with him. If his father tells him to do something, he does it. He tries to emulate what his father did. So I looked at my father. So my father was always with my mother. I didn't see him with another woman. I didn't see him cheating. He may have been spending his time with liquor, but he loved my mother.
mm,
And my mother loved him so much that she didn't want to be with another man. So I
mhm,
was like, I'm going to remember that that's how my father was viewed in my mother's eyes, regardless of how she may have felt about his lifestyle. She loved that man to the point where she died alone. Not alone, you know what I mean, like single. Um, And my father was always home. You know what I'm saying? He came home for dinner. He came home to watch TV. He slept in the same bed. He wasn't, you know what I mean? He wasn't out all over the place. He was always home. You know what I mean? He was always close to home so that he
Mm-hmm.
could be there for his wife, right? And so that, you know, that and comparing it with what Christ is telling me to do, it gave me the foundation for how I wanted to run my household. I wanted my wife to feel secure. I wanted her to feel safe, that she could come to me with any issues, with any problems, that I value her wisdom. I value her opinion. You know, yes, I may, you know, according to the scriptures, I do have, you know, the head of the household title, and all things are going to run through me, and I do have the final say. But if her ideas or her solutions um, are better than mine, I can look at, I can weigh it and say, all right, that's a better idea. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna take that. I'm gonna say, all right, let's do that. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? And my wife, it has made her the type of woman that the scriptures speak of. That I think, you know, I think that all women should, you know, sit down and speak with my wife. You know what I mean? And there's other women in the church too. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but a lot of women used to come to the church and wanted to understand modesty and shamefacedness and submission. And my wife, you know, would walk them through it and try to, you know, give them the same wisdom, because some women, especially in the world, they view submissiveness as a weakness. But the submissiveness of my wife is her power. That's her,
100%.
you know what I'm saying? That's her strength, right?
100%.
It makes me want to listen to her. If she's not like that, then why would I listen to you? You don't even want to. You don't want to take any information. So if you're being masculine and you're pushing this idea that I have to do this and you're gonna do this on your own, and because like some women may be making more money than their man, they're gonna make all the decisions and they sit down and let their man. That's not how. That's not a Christian household. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? It's out of order.
mm,
Um,
mm.
so yeah, those foundations, like looking at all the patriarchs, understanding Christ's role, what he tells us to do. A man who doesn't provide for his own is like an infidel. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm,
like
mhm,
you're
mhm.
unfaithful. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I have to make sure that I'm doing that first command. By the sweat of your brow, you shall eat bread. So I want to make sure that I'm instilling that in my son and both my sons. I want my daughters to look at my wife as the example of what they
Mhm,
should be doing.
mhm.
Um, you know, so that's how it has been for me. Like I'm just like running all things through Christ. I'm running all things through the Bible, right? So, you know, not to get off topic, but that vision that I had when I was a child, and when I began to do this, I understood then exactly what it was about. It was
Fact.
about him preparing me for this. He said, "I'm going to give you
Mhm,
the key. I'm gonna
mhm.
give you this. You need to use it when you're ready." And I didn't understand why I wasn't ready then.
Well,
Right?
go ahead, go ahead, go
No,
ahead.
no, that was I was just gonna say I didn't understand why I was ready then. So once I received it, the key to divine living and the key to divine happiness is Christ.
When you see somebody that practice Christianity or somebody that's an atheist or any other a practice of religion and you want to educate them on the truth, what's your format of communication? Like, how do you communicate with them? How many times do you talk to them? Like, what's your whole spill when it comes to that?
I tend to deal with who's my audience, and I try to the scriptures say condescend to men a lower estate. Right.
Mm,
So for me, modern Christianity is a lower state, paganism, you know, all that stuff. That's low knowledge. You know,
mm,
anybody can be pagan, anybody can be atheist, anybody can be, you know, a modern Christian. It's not hard. The walk is normally simple. You
mhm,
join and you believe, or you know, whatever the rule is. It's nothing crazy. Um, and not to say that the scriptures are anything crazy, but you know, when you understand the higher knowledge of the Bible and what it does for you spiritually, these things don't do that. It's impossible for them to do that. So I tend to try to identify who I'm speaking to and try to get them to tell me um, what their issue is. So normally, when I was preaching, if somebody would come up, my first question would be is do you believe the Bible to be true? Right? And from that point, they're gonna spill their guts. So you know what I'm saying? Because they're gonna say, well, I think the Bible is false, right? The Bible has lies in it, right? And I learned 6 words from the elders. Show me that in the Bible, right? So when somebody would say the Bible has lies in it, I would say, show me a lie in the Bible. Show me that in the Bible. And then you realize that people don't really understand that whether there's a lie in it or not. We're not even going to get to that, right? They're not even able to articulate whether there's a lie in the Bible or not, because all they did was regurgitate what they heard online. So they haven't went into the Bible to identify the lie. They just heard that the Bible is full of lies and you should stay away from it because it's the white man's book. So I say, show me how this is the white man's book. Show me well, they made Jesus white. Well, Jesus ain't white in the Bible. Next. You understand what I'm saying? So you begin to break them down based on the hearsay that they have, because now, as you're telling me why you're atheist, you believe in a higher power, but you don't believe in the God of the Bible. Why? You know what I'm saying? And when you ask, the more, and this is what I asked, this is what I learned from Elder Gabar, right? The more you ask why, the more you realize they don't know why. They don't even know why you don't believe in the Bible, because it got lies in it. What's a lie? I don't know. I just know it got lies in it. Where? It's somewhere in there. It got to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I mean? So it's like they don't really understand it. So what I normally do is get them to the point where they have to admit that they don't know. And I normally say to them, I say, yo, bro, listen, I don't know everything. It's impossible for you to know everything, right? Yes. No man knows anything. No man knows everything. All right, cool. So it's okay if you admit that you don't know. I'm not going to look at you as less of a person because you say you don't know. And some people, if they're not prideful, they'll say, you know what, bro? I'm going to be honest with you. I ain't never really looked into the Bible like that because I always figured it was the white man's book or it was full of lies. So I ain't really get into it like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, if you saying it ain't true, show me something in there, you know, and they'll give me like something they want to see or a question they had. And then we go into the Bible and I show them, and it's always that same effect that it had on all of us. I didn't even know that was in there. You understand? I didn't know that the people were black. I didn't know that the slave ships were in there. I didn't know that God approved of Israel, that he loves Israel, and the kingdom is made for them and the Gentiles, you know, in a manner which is orderly. Jew first, then the Gentile. You know what I'm saying? Like I say in Romans, right? So like when you're dealing with people, you got to identify who you're dealing with first. That's what I learned in college, in speech class. I didn't finish college, but when I went, I learned, like, I aced speech, right? So when you learn who you're talking to, you have to, you can't just paint broad statements because you're going to lose people. You know what I mean? You have to identify who you're talking to and identify, as you know, you got to identify the issue that they're dealing with so that you can fix it. Because if you just talk about any issue and they don't relate to them, they're not going to care. You got to figure out what the problem is, drill down on the problem and fix it with the Bible. And when you do that, they can't run. So now they have 2 options. And that's what I always tell them. I say, yo, bro, it's up to you to decide whether you want to follow the Bible the way it's written, or if you want to say, this ain't for me. If it ain't for you, that's between you and the Most High. I'm not going to argue with you about it. And I had to get to a point where I didn't argue with people about it because I used to. You know what I'm saying? So I got to a point where I'm like, yo, listen, that's between you and the Most High. You don't want to believe it. You don't want to read it and get the research and do it on your own and figure it out, because every man has to validate their faith. You have to do that. If you don't want to, then that's between you and the Most High. As for me and my household, we're going to serve the Lord. And you're not going to convince me with your I don't knows and I'm not sures to not read the Bible because you believe it's a white man book when I can prove to you it's not. So those are a lot of the conversations. And a lot of the conversations are always the same thing. They're always repetitive because people are hearing the exact same thing.
When people find out that, you know, you're Israelite and you present yourself as one, how do you deal with or get around the stigma that's presented with all Israelites stand on the corner, yell and curse people out, call white people devils and this and that? Like when you presenting your message, no, because I got to deal with it too. Like when I deal with it, I say I'm non-radical. Like How do
Yeah.
you handle that? Because it's like they paint all of us in this same picture of all of us are like that. So it takes time for me to be able to explain to people that nah, my church and the way I am, we don't carry ourselves like that. How do you deal with that in terms of your teaching and you trying to carry the gospel?
Um, it's normally, it's those two types of people you meet: the ones that have never heard of Israelites and the ones who have already seen them online.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So normally the people who've already seen them online, I'll what I normally do is I'll say I'm an Israelite. Do you know what that is? And they'll either say yay or nay. So I'll be like, so you've seen the other Israelite, so you've seen Israelites online, like telling people to kiss their boots and all that kind of stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, I've seen some of that stuff. So I'll be like, yeah, my church is not like that. You know what I'm saying? Like straight, I'll just be like, my church is not like that. We accept all people. We've baptized all nations. I'll let them know, like, I've baptized Caucasians myself. I've done that. So we we teach everybody, according to Matthew 28. The kingdom, salvation is for everybody. There is no reason um, why you should be thinking that or feel like that the kingdom is not for everybody. However, God does call us to wake up the lost sheep of house of Israel because we're
Mm-hmm.
lost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it all depends, like I say, the person I'm speaking to. You have to know if they can handle certain information. You can't just be giving them everything, because then again you'll lose them and they'll just be sitting down there nodding their head and not really caring. And that's another thing I had to learn as well. Not to spill the whole Bible out on them, you know. The virgin birth and Enoch and giants, and you can't just be going off on a tangent on them. So I kind of so I say what I say. I give them the opportunity to talk, to get out what they need to get out about whatever they've seen about Israel. Explain to them that the Jewish people are not Jews. Explain to them why, based on scripture. Explain to them about the Jewish, like sometimes I would say, like, the Jewish stars are not even in the Bible. You can't find it. And stuff like that. Like it actually equals 666 if you put it together, six shapes, six sides, 6 points. So that can't be the image of God. Um, I like to tell people about the Sabbath and God's name, because this, as you know, the Sabbath is the sign between man and God. Once once you begin to keep the Sabbath, your life begins to change, right? Because God is now, what I'm saying, God is now like, okay, I see you holding up this flag. I see you, you know,
Giving a sacrifice. Yeah.
right, you ready. Like I see the
Yeah.
sign, I see it.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's doing it, and not everybody's doing it for the right reasons. So, so I got you. So I'm gonna talk to you, right? So there was a lot of people who used to say, yo, I was just praying, I was just this, I was just that, and now you guys are here. And bro, it's thousands of times throughout my preaching have people said that. And I always tell people, like, yo, listen, if you're standing in front of me or my brothers, the Most High is trying to get in contact with you. And they'd be like, yeah, I was thinking about keeping the Sabbath. I realized Christmas is pagan, all that stuff we start to realize. And then they're trying to make the connection with the Most High. And they don't know if they should be dealing with these brothers they see online. They don't know if they should be going back to their church. They don't know if they should be listening to their mother and their father, their wife, or whatever the situation is. So the Most High always sends one of us or a group of us in order to make that contact with them so that they can choose. Now we have to, as you said, we got to figure out how to present this life to them, like this culture, because it's not a religion. We have to understand that this is a culture. We live it. We believe in our God, but what we live is the culture. The laws are life. This is what we live. We understand how to follow it. We make it a part of our life so that it's not grievous. The law is not grievous, because if you understand how to live in the law and walk in the spirit, then you're not going to have an issue. It's going to be a part of you. But if it's an issue for you and you're always like you nitpicking and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to destroy yourself, right? And you're going to run yourself out of the church. So when people find out that I'm an Israelite and I explain to them what it is, a lot of them are intrigued because they're not used to. And I'm gonna tell you, this one time I go out preaching with a brother that's across the street from me, a Caucasian brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
He takes me to this LGBT talk that we're gonna go do because they're doing an LGBT thing at this park, and they got all the children stuff. They got, bro. The whole thing was about children. All right, men dressed up with when they don't cut their breasts off, women and cut their breasts off. They got biker jackets on and walking out. You know what I'm saying, bro? It was wicked. Whole thing wicked. LGBTQ thing wicked. Children, candies, ice cream. All the children getting their face painted with rainbows and gay children. I'm like, yo, bro, like, this is crazy, right? So we go out there, we preaching. I'm preaching, and I'm doing my best not to make it an Israelite thing, but make it a Christ doctrine thing. Because I didn't want it to be like, yo, it's an Israelite out here preaching. I want it to be like, the scriptures are telling you what you shouldn't be doing as far as being effeminate, being a sodomite, being a homosexual, right? I didn't want it to be about, just the Israel. We Israel, because there's nobody that's Israel there. You know what I'm saying? It's predominantly Gentiles. So I'm teaching, right? And, right before I start teaching, this other Gentile, a Caucasian Gentile who I don't know, I'm walking with him. I meet him. We just walk into the same place, and he says to me, after speaking with me after probably like 5 minutes, and we going over, we talking about scriptures and all that. He's like, he looked at me and said, "Man, I ain't never meet a black guy that's as intelligent as you." You know what I'm saying? That knows the scriptures like you. You know what I'm saying? And they don't take it. It wasn't like he was trying to be, you know what I mean, like racist or condescending. He has never. It's a literal experience. And if you know Caucasians, if you know some Gentiles, they don't see them being truthful, especially if they're, based in Christ. If they don't see them being truthful as being wrong, but somebody else could have taken that the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? Because I just respected the fact that he saw a different kind of black man, a so-called black man, than the ones that he's normally used to seeing, because he probably has no black friends. He probably in a community where there's no black people. He probably in the church where there's no, you understand what I'm saying? So, and this is Pennsylvania, so it can be like that. So when I start preaching and I get off the mic, everybody, all the Caucasians, all the Gentiles are like, "That's crazy. I never met a man," and I'm just like, yo, this is the Most High Spirit. If y'all understood that I was an Israelite, right, and I gave them that understanding, they didn't hate it at all. They respected it. You understand what I'm saying? And when there was a LGBTQ member that tried to come up and attack me, and the Caucasian jumped right in front of them. You know what I'm saying? And stopped them and was blocking them and was trying to stop them from trying to attack me while I'm preaching. You know what I'm saying? Even though he knew I was Israel. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you carry yourself spiritually, if you walk spiritually and you deal peaceably with all men, like the scriptures say, if you're doing that, then there's no law for the fruits of the spirit. They can't hate you because you're operating in a Christ-like manner. If they do, that's sin on them.
Now let's get to the music. King Qam, talk to me, brother. Talk to me, brother. When did you first decide you wanted to go the route of music? And like, what hit you? What was that moment? Like, what made you want to go down that road?
As you know, I was always running the studio. I was always doing music. I was always in the music industry. When Safari and them had made it big, Nicki Minaj became Nicki Minaj. She wasn't, the woman that we used to see around the block. When they blew up, it was like, I'm about to be in the music industry. Back when I was in the world, like, I'm about to be in the music industry. They on, I'm on. You know what I'm saying? And he took me to a couple places here and there, but I think that my spirit is kind of different. You know what I mean? So I could like overpower certain people's auras and stuff like that, or energies or whatever, whatever they may have been taking in the world, you know what I'm saying? So when somebody's like that, you don't want them around. So I kind of got pushed out of that circle. So I started doing stuff on my own. I had already stopped cursing in my music because I wanted to be different. And this is before I found the truth. So I just stopped cursing. I started wearing suits and ties. I started calling the 007 music because I wanted to be like, I wanted to build a persona of not being like everybody else, having musical content that everybody could listen to. I didn't want to box myself into gangster rap or hood rap or street rap. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted it to be universal. So once I got into the truth, I was already making that transition. So it was just for me, like trying to figure out, like for me, growing my knowledge in the scriptures, excuse me, to be able to present a body of work or the art in a way where it didn't sound like I didn't know what I was talking about. And for me, it has always been, I grew up listening to Jay-Z. So the line that always stuck out for me, in the streets and in the music industry at the time was you can't talk about it if you ain't living. Right. So for me, it was like, I don't want to, so like even in the world, I didn't want to listen to music from brothers who didn't live what they were saying because it's not authentic. You're coming from a place where you're using your platform and maybe the people around you and the area that you live in to paint a picture that I'm supposed to believe. But for me, that's not art. You're coloring by numbers. And if you want to color by numbers and other people like it, that's cool. But I want you to get your easel, to get your paint and do what you do with it. And let me look at that and be like, that's all right, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I like it. I see it. I understand what you're doing. But when you painting by numbers, I can't deal with it. So I never wanted to be that person in the streets, and I didn't want to be that person in the what is now I'm gonna call it. I'm not gonna call it Hebrew Israelite music, but Christian gospel, right? Because that's what it is. It's Christian gospel rap or Christian hip hop. So I didn't want to be a person who when you meet them or when you go to their page or when you talk to them and you hear their music, it don't line up with the image you see or the knowledge that this person is supposed to have. You know what I mean? Because if you're talking to a rapper who raps about Christ and he don't understand the Bible, then where'd you get this from? You know what I'm saying? Like what spirit you dealing with? You know what I mean? And I told my wife the other day, like, like I used to have writer's block back in the world because but now I don't have writer's block. You know what I'm saying? Because writer's block comes from Satan. If you have writer's block, it's because you're dealing with Satan. There's no reason for you to, and let me not say it like that. I don't want other brothers who may have writer's block and it's in the truth to feel like they're dealing with Satan. I'm talking about in the world. If you're in the world, right, writer's block can happen solely because Satan is not an infinite soul. He's not an infinite spirit. If you're dealing with the Holy Spirit, you should never, you shouldn't have to deal with writer's block. You should just pray and, pray, tap in. You're dealing with wisdom that is infinite. She's been here from the beginning. She's, you know what I'm saying? There is no reason for you to not be able to hit the scriptures, to pray and to meditate on the Most High, to spark some incense and set the tone and, and do what you got to do in order to tap into the spirit that we're directly connected to. We have his name, we have his Sabbath, we have his understanding. So for me, it was like, I need to increase my knowledge. So the more I preached, the more I taught. I put out music here and there in the beginning. I put it out under the name iTunes. There's still some music out there under iTunes. And then I transitioned to King Qam when I changed my name because I wasn't always Qam. In the beginning, I was Ionis because that's my name. That's my real name in the Greek. So John is Ionis in the Greek. So that's what I was first. There may even be some music out like that. I don't even remember. But then when I transferred to Qam, which means arise, right? So Qam Yarawashalam, as you see it on the screen, it means arise, Jerusalem, because that's what the Most High called me to do. And as you know, when you name anything, especially yourself, it should be what you are focused on achieving, because that's where the power is going to be. So, we did give lessons on that, right? We gave lessons on how to power and the name and all that kind of stuff. So I name all of my children. They all have Hebrew names, Mariah. My son always argues with me. He's like, I'm the real Qam. Because his name is really Qam Yarawashalam. I remember being in church and it was like Qam Yarawashalam. And I ain't never really heard it before until the elders started saying it. And I was like, and I turned to my wife, I said, yo, that's our son's name. That's it. We're gonna call him Qam Yarawashalam. You know what I'm saying?
What's the diligence you have to be able to focus on the art of it and the message you're trying to write instead of how the world focus on the volume and the money that people make from music? Like, what kind of diligence do you have and concentration to not want to go that route and stay the course?
For me, I really make music for. I always say, like, I'm hoping the angels is listening to this. You know, like they like this. Like Michael is like, yo, I like this. You know what I mean? Or Christ is like, yo, I like this. You know what I mean? Like something that they like. That's how I envision, because they listen, because they praise the Most High, and if I'm praising the Most High, you know, it may not be like that, but that's how I try to make my music, so that they would approve of it. It's not so much the people now. Again, identifying your audience, you do want to make music where people can enjoy it. So you want to try to make the music. For me, what I try to do is I try to make music that sounds like the music they're already used to listening to, so that it's a smooth transition. You don't want it to be something they've never heard, or a different style. And not that there's anything wrong with you doing different styles, but you have to understand your audience. So if your audience is used to listen to Drake, or, you know, Little Baby, you're in a certain area, like you're in Memphis, and they're used to listening to certain people, and you live in Memphis, why are you trying to make New York music? Make Memphis music about God. You know what I'm saying? Like take those beats, right? Because people will say, like you heard on the song, right? That I sent you, where they say, yo, Qam, why you always doing these industry beats? You know, and they tell you, yo, they got spirits and paws in it, but no spirit and no paw can conquer my God. So it doesn't matter what they're doing. Once the Most High used me to put the spirit on it, that spirit is going to overpower any spirit. If you believe that another spirit or a paw or something they done did with this beat is stronger than God, stop making music and focus on your spirit and your connection with the Most High, because there's nothing more powerful than that, right? So my focus is, first, will the Most High approve of this? Then, can the people dance to this? Can they enjoy this, right? And the money, if money comes, that's cool. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's not I'm making this so that I can be rich.
I like
that's
that.
That's the wrong reason to do Christian music. If the Most High is going to make you successful for doing it, he's going to do it. He can make any man rich in an instant. But does the Most High approve of what you're saying? So now you have to be careful of what you say, because you're already going to be accountable for every idle word. And if your music is idle music, and you're just making it to sound a certain way, to appeal to people only, not thinking about whether the Most High would approve of how you're saying it or what you're saying it. Are you edifying the people through your music, so that they can understand this walk to be a better person, right? And not that it got to be so scriptural heavy. You ain't got to be like, you're Deuteronomy 28. You know, you don't got to do all that, right? You know, but you do have to, you know, set the orientation to a spiritual place. You want to send them to a spiritual place. You don't want them to be in a worldly state of mind when they're listening to your music.
I know. I came across your joint that you took the Biggie 10 Commandments joint, and I mean the crack commandments, and you put it to the Bible commandments, man. So you know, I mean, I like that joint. I like how you put that together. So you know what I'm saying. So we're gonna check that joint out right now. We're gonna check that joint out right now.
All praise.
You know what I'm saying. So let's get at it and check it out.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the Bible commandments. 1, 2, 3, Judah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. BIBLE commandments. 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've been in this church for years. I'm a preacher, I'm adamant. It's rules to the walk. On tablets, step-by-step commandments for you to get your life on track, not your spirit on racks. Number 1 is the problem that I most find. You can't have any other gods before the Most High. Not a Allah or Selassie, not a Yahweh or Bali, not a Buddha. They intruded with all of their folly. Number 2 is just as vital. Thou shalt have no idols, not a cross, not a stock, not a stone, not an ark. And oh yeah, no images of Jesus, cause it's really bullshit. Number 3, this one is simple, but y'all be playing. Don't take the name of God in vain. That's for naught, cause he won't hold you guiltless. I don't know what you was thinking, I don't know what you was taught. Number 4 had to be added, cause he knew you would forget it, so remember the Sabbath. Number 5, honor your mother and your father. It's the only commandment that God had promised. Number 6, thou shalt not murder. But y'all so busy trying to be real, you probably never heard it. Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. You need to hear it twice. If a man ain't around, stay away from his wife. If you think you're trying to get it, you'll be sitting in the council, waiting to hear scriptures. Thou shalt not steal. And that goes for any leeches out there making pieces. Number 9, gotta be the most close to vicious, cause you know you straight lying when you bear false witness. Why we gotta tell you that you're being wicked? Ain't nothing you can say, it's way worse than snitching. Number 9, they create nice things that make you want it, but thou shalt not covet. It's also called lusting. It'll make you hate your neighbor, then able to cane your brother. You shame your father's name and bring disgrace on your mother. Follow these commands, you'll have mad love from the maker. If not, you'll be in hell when you wake up. Your tree getting cut down, watch your roots break up. Judge rent your temple, watch your frame shake up. Can't take it, did your makeup. Now you grasp when you pass the bosom of Abraham with Jacob. If you say you want the kingdom, then this is how you get it. Stop running with the bandits and follow the take
It's one of my favorites too, bro. Man, all praises. I always wanted to do that joint. I ain't gonna lie. I always wanted to do that joint, man. But I was like, I can't do this in the world. I ain't really with the crap vibes like that. I dabble, but nothing crazy, you know.
That's fire, man. That's fire, man. I want to thank you for coming on, bro. You know what I mean? That was a perfect way to end it all off, man. And just give a shout out to the people that you feel, I always do this at the end of this joint, that was with you from your pain to your purpose, brother.
First and foremost, gotta shout out my moms, man. You know, Most High rest her soul. Most High willing, He will have mercy on her so that I may be able to see her in the kingdom, you know, with her approval of me, making it in, you know, to this place that I have, you know, that the Most High was always guiding me. So I'm just hoping I can see her again, man. The Most High have mercy on her for her diligence and love for Him, even though it wasn't, you know, exactly the way that it was probably supposed to be. But she really loved Him. You know, of course, shout out my wife who is my crown, who has been with me, who was directly after my mother. She was the best thing besides for the truth that I found, as the Most High said, when the Most High findeth a wife, He findeth a good thing. He definitely has given me my rib back. And I feel like every man, when they get that woman, you'll understand what I mean. That's my rib. You know, of course, all my children who are growing beautifully in this word, and praying that they continue in this walk and be able to pass this culture and this understanding down to their children, whoever else they may meet. All of my brothers who started out with me, Yata Zakwa, Halam, Ahmad, Yata Zakwa, you know, the first Gabar, the Gabar that's no longer with us. I appreciate the elders for reaching out to me, for giving me the opportunity to be able to teach this word through the spirit that they received. You know, of course, Bishop Aaron, who had enough faith in me to, even after my slip-ups in the body, to be able to, when I came back, to still be able to give me the opportunity to teach the Friday night Bible studies. And we've been going strong for 5 years. Like I said, 5 years now.
Your Bible studies, you've been on point. All praises to the Most High, bro. Your classes be serious, bro.
Yeah, man. So you know, Bishop Shimon, I can't even forget him. Bishop Shimon was always looking out for me. You know, in other ways. And man, I do want to shout out Elder Zion Nash. I know a lot of y'all don't know him. He was probably out of the church before certain brothers came in, but when the elders went to Egypt and me and my wife decided to go to Egypt with them, after them, I should say, when they were there for probably like 4 months, I came after them. Elder Zion Nash was like, "Yeah, man, you could come live with me, man." You know what I'm saying? And I didn't even know Elder Zion Nash, and he allowed me to live with him, man. He built me up spiritually. He gave us the opportunity to be able to teach brothers, to have a men's Bible study out there. And I said, I promise I would tell you how I knew there was a Detroit body, but that's how I knew, because Detroit body had wound up flying out there directly after us, and I met them. But we did main classes and stuff like that. So I want to shout out to Elder Zion Nash for allowing us to be able to, without ever having taught any physical classes, being able to lead a men's class, a Sabbath class, and trusting us with that. All the bishops, the deacons, the officers within the Jersey body, the New York body. I want to shout out Zachariah, Deacon Zachariah, because he's always there for me with some insight. Also, the one friend that I got into this body, but I didn't do it, the Most High brought in, was my brother Priest, who I never spoke to, who was a super gang leader and a Levite, a Haitian, Crip, you know what I'm saying? That we was cool, since for years. We knew each other when we was teens. I saw him at a Tabernacles one day, and I was just so joyful to see somebody that I actually knew in this walk, because you don't see it like that. And but that's one of my counselors. He'll be like, "Yo, Qam, you bugging out. Qam, you can't say that. Qam, you shouldn't do that." You know what I mean? Like, I know you want to, like, I know you want to say something, Qam, but you can't. You got to work on, And he's always helping me to self-reflect. And I mean, like, Officer Adrian as well. I do want to shout you out, because you do a great work in the body. You also keep me grounded a bit. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I do appreciate your truthfulness in everything. I do value that, because a lot of people won't be truthful. They won't be like, "Man, you're presenting with music or something," and they'll be like, "Yo, that's fire." And they don't really like it like that. They don't think that it's not really for them. But I appreciate you when I present you with something, you say, "It's cool, but it ain't for me." You know what I mean? That I value, because people don't do that. But I would say, that's pretty much it, man. I've, like all my brothers and sisters that have been here from the beginning, it's not very much anymore, because a lot of them have left. But excuse me, I do value my family that is in my household, but also the family of the body that I have. So I appreciate everybody, man.
And I appreciate you guys, man. You and your wife, and her products, man. The products y'all sell, man. They helped me when I first got started on my health journey, man. Like, I was going crazy buying y'all stuff, man. All of the different herbs, the elderberry, the all of the stuff, man. The sea moss
and all of that,
everything, man. Y'all,
the toothpaste you got me hitting.
Yeah, man. Y'all got me going in my direction. So
And before we do go off, I can't, the person who has brought me here, praise the Most High, Ahia, Yeshaya, the Holy Spirit, because without them,
100%.
They have been with me through my pain and purpose from the beginning, from birth.
Facts.
So I can't neglect that.
Facts, man. All right, brother, man. It was great having you on. I'm gonna be clipping this joint, so you're gonna see mad highlights of you clips on there. You probably gonna get tired of seeing them. You know what I mean? Because I got the joint. I'm gonna send it to the app as soon as I get off the phone that clips them, and then I'm gonna send them out, man. We'll go from there. Thanks for everything. I love you, bro, man. I look forward to seeing you on Bible study coming up soon, man. All right.
I love you, bro. Appreciate you.
All right, love you too. Shalom, bro.
Shalom.
Yeah, another great podcast tonight, man. My bro, man, it was good to have him on and let him talk and do his thing, man. And now we got to get ready to deal with this storm tomorrow. So you guys get some rest. I see y'all next week. This Mike. Enjoy the rest of your time. Shalom.